The aftermath. Commander Ilara Chen stood at the observation deck of the NSS Phoenix, watching the stars drift by in quiet contemplation. 43 years had passed since the Craxian Empire had nearly wiped humanity from existence. 43 years since Earth had fallen, its atmosphere set ablaze by Craxian bombardment that turned oceans to steam and forests to ash. 43 years since the remnants of humanity, barely 9 million souls, had flowed into the unknown regions of the Orion Spur, beyond the reach of Craxian sensors. Ilara had been only 7 when her family boarded the evacuation ships. Her memories of Earth were fragmented. The smell of rain on concrete, the taste of fresh apples, the sound of birds singing at dawn. Now, at 50, she commanded one of humanity's most advanced vessels, built entirely in secret by a civilization that the galaxy believed extinct. Commander, Lieutenant Marcus Riley's voice broke her reverie. The reconnaissance probes have returned from Sector 117. The data is concerning. Ilara turned from the viewport, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the ship's lighting. Show me. The holographic display flickered to life, showing footage of a Craxian mining operation on a small rocky planet. Thousands of aliens, not Craxians, but a species Ilara didn't recognize, labored under the watchful eyes of armored overseers, extracting ore from deep pits that scared the planet's surface. They're called Lyrians, Riley explained. According to the data we gathered, their homeworld was conquered by the Craxian Empire 22 years ago. They're just one of 17 species now enslaved. Ilara's jaw tightened. Pause and enhance grid section C7. The image zoomed in on one of the Craxian installations. The architecture was unmistakably influenced by human design, the very same technology that had been stolen during their conquest of Earth. They're still using our technology, Ilara whispered, an old anger rekindling within her, profiting from our innovations while celebrating our extinction. The Craxians had not just attempted genocide, they had plundered Earth's intellectual treasures before destroying it. Human advances in medicine, energy generation, and faster-than-light travel had been appropriated and claimed as Craxian achievements. The galaxy's historical records now credited the Craxians with breakthroughs that had cost human scientists centuries of work. There's more, Riley said, his voice hesitant. Show the cultural intercept. The display shifted to what appeared to be a Craxian celebration. Towering, chitinous beings with multiple limbs moved in synchronized patterns around a central monument, a stark black obelisk inscribed with a date, the day Earth fell. They celebrate the anniversary of our extinction, Riley said, his voice tight with restrained fury. They call it the Purification Day. Ilara turned away from the display, her hands curling into fists. For decades, humanity had hidden, recovered, and rebuilt the fleet that had escaped Earth's destruction. Just 37 ships carrying the remnants of a civilization that had numbered in billions had grown to over 200 vessels. Haven, their hidden colony established in an unremarkable star system, shrouded by a dense nebula, now housed a population of 20 million. 3 generations had been born in exile, knowing Earth only through historical records and simulations, yet they were raised with a singular purpose: to ensure humanity's survival and one day to bring justice to those who had attempted to erase them from existence. Admiral Rice needs to see this immediately, Ilara decided. Prepare my shuttle. The central command facility of Haven was buried 2 kilometers beneath the surface of the planet, a sprawling complex that served as the heart of humanity's government in exile. Admiral Sophia Rice, the highest-ranking survivor of Earth's defense forces, had overseen the construction of Haven and guided humanity's recovery for over 4 decades. Now 78, her body was frail, but her mind remained as sharp as the day she had given the order to flee Earth rather than face certain annihilation. The Craxians continue to expand, Ilara reported, displaying the reconnaissance data on the command center's main screen. They've subjugated 17 species and stripped resources from over 100 worlds. They've built their empire on the bones of ours. Admiral Rice studied the data in silence, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. Around the table sat the other members of the High Command. General Ibrahim Kader of the Ground Forces, Dr. Yusuf Wong of Research and Development, and Director Amara Okafor of Intelligence. For 43 years, we have hidden in the shadows, Rice finally said, her voice carrying the weight of decades of difficult decisions. We have rebuilt our strength, advanced our technology beyond what we had on Earth. The question before us is, are we ready to reveal ourselves? Our phase shift drives give us a significant tactical advantage, Dr. Wong noted. The Craxians still rely on conventional FTL technology, our technology, ironically, which they stole but never fully understood. Our ships can appear anywhere in their territory without warning. Director Okafor nodded in agreement. Our intelligence suggests the Craxian Empire has grown complacent. Their military practices have become ritualized rather than practical. They haven't faced a serious threat in decades. However, General Kader cautioned, we remain vastly outnumbered. The Craxian Empire spans over 300 star systems with a military that numbers in the millions. We have 200 ships and 40,000 trained personnel. Numbers aren't everything, Ilara said, stepping forward. We don't need to defeat their entire empire at once. We need to announce our return in a way they can't ignore, then build alliances with the species they've subjugated. A long silence followed as each member of the High Command considered the implications. For decades, their sole focus had been survival, secrecy, and rebuilding. Now they contemplated war against the empire that had nearly destroyed them. If we reveal ourselves, Admiral Rice said slowly, there's no going back. If we fail, humanity truly becomes extinct. No survivors, no second chances. And if we remain hidden, Ilara challenged, we watch as the Craxians enslave more worlds, build their empire larger, make any future resistance even more impossible. How long before they discover Haven, despite our precautions? Admiral Rice moved to a small display case at the edge of the room. Inside lay simple items from Earth, a handful of soil, a pressed flower, a small stone worn smooth by Earth's oceans. Relics of a homeworld that now existed only in memory. We have waited long enough, Rice decided, turning back to face the High Command. We will reveal humanity's survival to the galaxy, but on our terms, with a demonstration of strength that cannot be ignored. She fixed her gaze on Ilara. Commander Chen, I'm promoting you to captain. You will lead Operation Lazarus. What's the target? Ilara asked, standing straighter. Admiral Rice's expression hardened. The Craxian outpost in the Vega system. It serves as their primary command center for this sector and houses their annual Purification Day celebration. Your mission is to destroy the outpost, but leave one survivor, one witness to carry our message back to the Craxian homeworld. And what message is that, Admiral? Rice smiled grimly. Humanity remembers. Captain Ilara Chen stood on the bridge of the NSS Phoenix, now the flagship of Strike Force Lazarus. 5 ships, the most advanced in humanity's rebuilt fleet, moved silently through the void, their phase shift drives allowing them to travel through subspace without leaving the telltale energy signatures that conventional FTL drives produced. Lieutenant Riley manned the tactical station, his fingers dancing over the controls as he finalized the attack coordinates. All ships report ready, Captain. Phase shift drives charged and locked on target. Ilara studied the tactical display. The Craxian outpost on Vega IV was a sprawling facility, home to over 15,000 Craxian military and administrative personnel. It was also the site where, in just 6 hours, the annual Purification Day ceremony would begin. All ships, initiate phase shift on my mark, Ilara ordered, her voice calm despite the gravity of what they were about to do. After 43 years of hiding, humanity was about to announce its survival to the galaxy. 3, 2, 1 mark. Reality seemed to bend around them as the 5 ships slipped partly out of normal space, traversing the void between stars in minutes rather than years. When they reappeared, they were in perfect formation directly above the Craxian outpost, catching the aliens completely by surprise. "All weapons systems online," Riley reported. "We have target lock." "Fire," Ilara commanded. The first shots of humanity's return struck with devastating precision. Particle beams and gravitic torpedoes, weapons the Craxians had never encountered, cut through defensive shields as if they weren't there. Communication arrays exploded, power generators collapsed, and defensive installations melted under the barrage. The Craxians scrambled to respond, but their reactions were too slow, their tactics too predictable. Small defensive craft launched from the outpost only to be systematically disabled by point defense systems. "Captain," Riley called out, "the central administrative building remains intact as planned. Sensors detect approximately 30 Craxian life signs inside." Ilara nodded. "Deploy the ground team. Remind them, one survivor." Within minutes, the battle was over. The outpost lay in ruins, with only the central building deliberately left standing. From her position on the bridge, Ilara watched as the ground team returned, escorting a single Craxian official. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, its chitinous exoskeleton gleaming dully under the ship's lights. Despite its captivity, it maintained the rigid posture of its military caste, compound eyes fixed straight ahead. "I am Sub-Commander Vexlar of the Craxian Empire," it announced in the guttural tones of its species. "I demand to know the identity of those who dare attack an Imperial installation." Ilara stepped forward, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. "We are what you tried to erase from history," she said simply. "Humans." The Craxian's compound eyes widened, its breathing quickened. "Impossible," it chittered. "The human species was purified from the galaxy 43 standard cycles ago. Our historical archives confirm total extinction." "Clearly," Ilara replied coldly, "your archives are incomplete." The Craxian was placed in an escape pod programmed to reach the nearest Craxian relay station. Before launching the pod, Ilara uploaded a simple data package to its systems. Footage of the attack and a message. "Humanity remembers." As the Phoenix and its sister ships prepared to phase shift back to Haven, Ilara returned to the observation deck. The ruins of the Craxian outpost were visible below, a statement written in destruction that would soon echo across the empire that had celebrated humanity's extinction for over 4 decades. "We remember," she whispered to herself. "And now so will they." The revelation. High Lord Kravex of the Craxian Empire stood motionless in the grand chamber of dominion, his iridescent exoskeleton reflecting the ambient light as he watched the recording for the 12th time. The footage showed ships bearing the unmistakable insignia of Earth, a planet whose destruction he had personally ordered 43 years ago, materializing from nowhere, demolishing one of the Empire's most secure outposts with frightening efficiency. "Impossible," he chittered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The humans were eradicated. We were methodical. We were thorough." First Minister Shorek, responsible for the Empire's internal security, shifted nervously beside him. "The evidence suggests otherwise, High Lord. The attack occurred during the Purification Day ceremony. The symbolism is unmistakable." "And this message?" Kravex demanded, pointing a clawed appendage at the final frame of the recording. "Humanity remembers." Shorek translated unnecessarily. "Our linguists confirm it matches pre-purification human communication patterns." Kravex's compound eyes narrowed. In 43 years of rule, he had never faced a threat like this. The Craxian Empire had expanded unchallenged since the human purification, subjugating species and stripping resources from countless worlds. The military had grown complacent, more focused on ceremonial displays than actual combat readiness. "How did they survive?" he demanded. "Where have they been hiding? How many are there?" "Unknown, High Lord," Shorek admitted. Our long-range sensors have detected no sign of human activity. Their ships appeared and disappeared without using any known form of FTL technology. We are investigating. Investigating is not enough. Krovex slammed his primary limb against the chamber wall, cracking the crystalline surface. I want every military vessel redirected to search operations. I want our research division to analyze every second of this footage. I want the humans found and exterminated, this time with no survivors. As his ministers scurried to obey, Krovex moved to the chamber's viewport, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape of Craxus Prime. For decades, the Empire had built its prosperity on technologies stolen from Earth before its destruction. Medical advancements, energy systems, even the FTL drives that powered their fleets. The Craxians had claimed these innovations as their own, rewriting history to erase humanity's contributions. Now, the ghosts of that betrayal had returned. The Craxians are panicking, Director Okafor reported, displaying intercepted communications on the command center screens at Haven. 3 months had passed since Operation Lazarus, and humanity's return had sent shockwaves through the Craxian Empire. They've redirected 70% of their fleet to search operations, leaving many of their subject worlds with minimal security. Captain Ilara Chen, now promoted to Admiral following the success of Lazarus, studied the displays with satisfaction. The Phoenix had led 2 additional strikes since their initial attack, each targeting Craxian military installations, and each leaving a single survivor to spread the message. Humanity remembers. Their search patterns are inefficient, General Cater observed. They're focusing on regions where conventional FTL signatures might be detected. They still don't understand our phase shift technology. More importantly, Dr. Wong added, we've made contact with resistance movements on 3 Craxian-controlled worlds. The Lyrians, the Vosarians, and the Telluric Union have all expressed interest in alliance talks. Admiral Reyes, who had insisted on remaining involved despite her advancing age, nodded approvingly. This was always our strategy. We couldn't defeat the Craxian Empire alone, but we could be the catalyst that unites those they've oppressed. The door to the command center slid open, and Lieutenant Riley entered, his expression tense. Admirals, we've intercepted a priority transmission from Craxian High Command. They're deploying their ceremonial fleet to the Arcturus system. The ceremonial fleet? Admiral Chen frowned. That's 90 ships, including their flagship, the Dominion. Why would they? Because they're desperate. Admiral Reyes realized. They're trying to draw us out. Arcturus is where they first encountered human explorers before the war. They're returning to where it all began, hoping we'll attack such a symbolic target. It's a trap, General Cater stated flatly. Of course it is, Admiral Chen agreed. But it's also an opportunity. If we could capture their flagship. The strategy took shape quickly. Rather than avoiding the trap, humanity would spring it, but on their own terms. The phase shift technology gave them the advantage of surprise, allowing them to choose the exact moment and location of engagement. 2 weeks later, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, leading a fleet of 20 ships toward the Arcturus system. The Craxian ceremonial fleet had arrived 3 days earlier and now patrolled in a standard defensive formation, their sensors sweeping space for any sign of human vessels. They can't detect us until we shift back to normal space, Chen reminded her officers. When we do, we'll have approximately 45 seconds of confusion before they organize a response. Make every shot count. All ships report ready, Admiral. Riley confirmed from Tactical. Phase shift coordinates locked for emergence directly above their flagship. Chen took a deep breath. This would be humanity's largest engagement since Earth's fall. 20 ships against 90. The odds were heavily against them. But the element of surprise and their technological advantage might be enough. All ships, initiate phase shift on my mark, she ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The universe blurred around them as the fleet shifted partially out of normal space. When they reappeared, They were in perfect formation surrounding the Craxian flagship, the Dominion, a massive vessel nearly 2 kilometers long, its hull decorated with trophies from conquered worlds. "All ships, commence attack," Chen commanded. The human vessels unleashed a coordinated barrage, targeting the Dominion's engines, weapons, and communication systems. The massive Craxian ship, caught completely by surprise, suffered critical damage before it could raise its shields. Around them, the rest of the Craxian fleet scrambled to respond, but their reactions were slow and disorganized. They had grown too accustomed to ceremonial maneuvers rather than actual combat. "Boarding teams ready, Admiral," Riley reported. "Deploy," Chen ordered. This was the true objective of the mission, not to destroy the Dominion, but to capture it, along with the Craxian leadership on board. As the boarding shuttles launched toward the crippled flagship, the Phoenix and the rest of the human fleet engaged the surrounding Craxian vessels. The battle was chaotic, with human ships using their superior maneuverability and phase shift capability to appear and disappear. "Agros, Admiral," Riley called out. "Boarding team reports they've reached the command deck. High Lord Kravex has been secured." A cheer went up from the bridge crew. It was a victory beyond what they had dared to hope for, the capture of the Craxian Empire's supreme leader. "All ships, prepare for extraction," Chen ordered. "Phase shift coordinates to Rendezvous Point Alpha." As the human fleet disengaged, leaving behind a confused and disorganized Craxian force, Chen allowed herself a moment of fierce satisfaction. The capture of High Lord Kravex would send a message far more powerful than any attack could. Humanity was not just alive. It was now dictating the course of the war. The news of High Lord Kravex's capture spread across the galaxy with astonishing speed. On worlds subjugated by the Craxian Empire, suppressed populations rose in rebellion, emboldened by the evidence that their oppressors were not invincible. The Lyrians, the Vosarians, and the Tellarate Union formally declared independence, their resistance fighters using weapons and tactical advice provided by human operatives. On Haven, High Lord Kravex was held in a secure facility, his arrogance diminished but not extinguished. Admiral Chen had requested the opportunity to interrogate him personally. "How did you survive?" Kravex demanded as soon as Chen entered the cell. "We left nothing of your world intact." "You underestimated human resilience," Chen replied calmly, taking a seat across from the Craxian leader. "And you overestimated your own thoroughness." "What do you want?" Kravex chittered. "Vengeance. To see our worlds burn as yours did." Chen studied the alien carefully. For decades, the Craxians had been faceless monsters in humanity's collective memory, responsible for the greatest tragedy in their history. Now, facing one directly, she saw something unexpected. Fear. "If we wanted simple destruction, we could have killed you already," she pointed out. "We want something more valuable than revenge. We want the truth." Kravex's compound eyes narrowed. "Truth. Why was Earth targeted for extermination? We had established peaceful contact with 12 other species. Our expansion was slow and cautious. We offered technology and trade. Yet you launched an unprovoked genocide against us. Why?" The Craxian was silent for a long moment, his breathing the only sound in the cell. "You were a threat," he finally answered. "Not for what you had done, but for what you would become." "Explain." "Your species evolved faster than any we had encountered. Your technological development accelerated at an unprecedented rate. Our projections showed that within a single century, humans would surpass Craxians in every meaningful metric. The Security Council determined that prevention required elimination." Chen felt a cold anger settle in her chest. Millions had died not because of any aggression or threat they posed, but because of fear of human potential. "You stole our technology," she said. "You claimed our achievements as your own." "Of course," Kravex replied, a hint of pride returning to his voice. "It would have been wasteful to destroy such innovations. Your medicine alone advanced our species by centuries." Chen stood, having heard enough. Your empire is crumbling, High Lord. The species you've subjugated are rising against you, inspired by humanity's return. Your military is disorganized and unprepared for actual warfare. How quickly your dominance collapses when faced with real resistance. As she turned to leave, Kravex called after her. What will you do with me? Chen paused at the door. You'll stand trial for crimes against humanity and countless other species. But first, you'll watch as everything you built on our destruction falls apart. Back in the command center, Admiral Rice and the High Command awaited her report. He confirmed what we suspected, Chen told them. They attacked us because they feared our potential, not because of any actual threat we posed. Fear is a powerful motivator, Rice observed. It led them to commit genocide, and now it's tearing their empire apart. The strategic displays showed the rapidly changing situation across former Craxian territory. Without central leadership, Imperial forces were withdrawing from outlying systems, concentrating around their core worlds for protection. Representatives from 7 formerly subjugated species have requested a diplomatic summit, Director Okafor reported. They want to discuss a post-Craxian security alliance, with humanity as the cornerstone. Admiral Rice turned to Chen. The wheel of history turns in unexpected ways. We fled into darkness as refugees, and now we emerge as the hope for a more just galactic order. Chen nodded, thinking of the long journey from Earth's fall to this moment. We remember what it means to lose everything, she said quietly. That memory will guide us to build something better than what was destroyed. The Reckoning. 6 months after the capture of High Lord Kravex, Admiral Ilara Chen stood in the observation bay of the diplomatic vessel Concordia, watching as ships from 17 different species arrived for the inaugural council of what was being called the Stellar Concordat. Each vessel represented a civilization that had suffered under Craxian rule and now sought a new path forward, with humanity as an unexpected guide. Quite a sight, isn't it? Admiral Rice said, joining Chen at the viewport. At 79, Rice had insisted on attending this historic gathering despite her failing health. When we fled Earth, I never imagined we would one day be at the center of a new galactic alliance. We've come full circle, Chen agreed, from nearly extinct to architects of a new order. The diplomatic summit was being held in neutral space, a space station constructed in orbit around a lifeless planet in the Procyon system. The location had been chosen for its symbolic value. It was equidistant from Haven, the Craxian homeworld, and the territories of the newly liberated species. As the various delegations assembled in the Grand Council chamber, Chen noted the diversity of life forms represented. The towering crystalline Vocerians, the aquatic Tellarites in their environmental suits, the insectoid Lyrians, and a dozen other species, each with their own history, culture, and grievances against the Craxian Empire. Representatives of the Stellar Concordat, Admiral Rice began, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. We gather today, not just as survivors of Craxian oppression, but as architects of a new future. For too long, the galaxy was dominated by an empire built on fear and subjugation. Today, we begin building something better. The delegates murmured in approval, many using translation devices to follow Rice's words. Chen watched the various species interacting, some cautiously, others with open curiosity. Many had known of each other only as fellow subjects of the Craxian Empire. Now they were potential allies. The human delegation has a proposal, Rice continued. Rather than simply replacing one empire with another, we suggest a confederacy of equal members, bound by common principles of sovereignty, mutual defense, and fair trade. As Rice outlined the proposal, Chen's communication device vibrated subtly against her wrist. She glanced down to see an urgent message from Haven. Craxian battle group detected approaching Tellarite homeworld. Estimated 30 vessels. Chen stepped away from the proceedings, moving to a secure communication room adjacent to the main chamber. This is Admiral Chen. Report. The Craxians have launched a counteroffensive. General Cater's voice came through. They're targeting worlds that have declared independence, starting with the Tellarites. It appears to be a desperate attempt to reassert control. Who's commanding? Chen asked, already calculating response options. Supreme Commander Vextho, Kravex's successor, Cater reported. He's issued a statement declaring all independence movements illegal and promising severe punishment for collaborating with humans. Chen made her decision quickly. Deploy strike forces Artemis and Orion to the Tellarite system immediately. I'll inform their delegation here and join you as soon as possible. Returning to the council chamber, Chen approached the Tellarite representative, a dignified figure with iridescent scales and elaborate breathing apparatus. She conveyed the news discreetly, watching the alien's compound eyes widen with alarm. My people are still rebuilding from decades of Craxian rule, the Tellarite representative said, his voice bubbling through the translator. Our defense systems are minimal. Human forces are already en route, Chen assured him. This is precisely why we propose the Concordat, so no species faces threats alone again. Addressing the full assembly, Chen explained the situation. The Craxian Empire has launched an attack against our Tellarite allies. This is not just an attack on one species, but a direct challenge to everything we are building here. The chamber erupted in concerned discussions, but Chen was heartened to see many delegations immediately offering support. The Vosarians pledged their defense fleet, while the Lyrians offered medical and logistical assistance. This is the first test of our alliance, Chen told them. How we respond will define the Concordat's future. I must return to command our response, but I ask you all to continue this vital work. Show the galaxy that unity is stronger than empire. As Chen prepared to depart, Admiral Rice pulled her aside. Be careful, Ilara. The Craxians are desperate, and desperation makes enemies dangerous. We've come too far to falter now, Chen replied, embracing her mentor. Continue the diplomatic work here. I'll ensure there's still a Concordat to build when I return. The battle for the Tellarite homeworld was already underway when the Phoenix phase shifted into the system. The scene was chaotic. Craxian warships bombarding orbital defenses while smaller craft descended toward the planet's surface. 2 human strike forces had arrived earlier and engaged the enemy, but they were outnumbered and fighting a defensive action to protect Tellarite population centers. Status report, Chen demanded as she strode onto the bridge. Strike forces Artemis and Orion have destroyed 7 Craxian vessels with minimal casualties, Lieutenant Riley reported. However, the Craxians have landed ground forces near the Tellarite capital. They're taking the scorched earth approach. They're not trying to reoccupy, they're trying to punish. Vosarian reinforcements are 20 minutes out, another officer added. Lyrian medical ships are standing by at the system's edge. Chen studied the tactical display, noting the Craxian battle formation. Despite their numerical advantage, their tactics were rigid and predictable, still focused on intimidation rather than efficiency. Deploy our ships in pattern Epsilon, she ordered. Target their command vessels first. Lieutenant Riley, prepare a direct communication channel to Supreme Commander Vextho. As the Phoenix and its accompanying ships engaged the Craxian fleet, the difference in combat effectiveness was immediately apparent. The human vessels moved with precision and coordination, their weapons targeting critical systems with surgical accuracy. The Craxians, despite their size and firepower, struggled to counter the humans' more adaptive tactics. Channel established to the Craxian flagship, Admiral, Riley reported. The main view screen flickered, revealing the towering figure of Supreme Commander Vextho, his exoskeleton adorned with the elaborate markings of his rank. This is Admiral Ilara Chen of the Human Alliance and the Stellar Concordat. Chen began, her voice level despite the battle raging around them. Your attack on the Tellarite homeworld is an act of war against not just one species but 17. You have no authority here, human. Vextho chittered angrily. The Tellarites are imperial subjects in illegal rebellion. We are merely restoring order. That order is gone forever, Chen replied. Look around you, Commander. Your forces are being systematically dismantled by ships that once fled before you. The species you subjugated are rising against you, united by a common cause. This is your only warning. Withdraw your forces or face complete destruction. The Craxian commander's mandibles clicked in what Chen had learned was a sign of agitation. The Craxian Empire does not negotiate with. The Craxian Empire no longer exists as you knew it, Chen interrupted. Your High Lord awaits trial. Your subject worlds have declared independence. Your military advantage has evaporated. All that remains is how much more Craxian blood will be spilled before you accept this reality. As if to emphasize her point, the tactical display showed the arrival of the Vosarian defense fleet, 12 crystalline ships that immediately moved to engage the Craxian forces attempting planetary bombardment. Vexthos's compound eyes narrowed as he received reports of the new arrivals. This isn't over, human, he hissed before cutting the communication. He's ordering a retreat, reported the officer monitoring Craxian communications. Their ground forces are withdrawing. Chen nodded, unsurprised. The Craxian Empire had maintained control through fear and overwhelming force for centuries. When faced with actual resistance, coordinated, determined, and technologically superior, their resolve crumbled quickly. All ships maintain pursuit positions, but hold fire unless fired upon, she ordered. Let them retreat. Today's objective is defending the Tellarites, not annihilating the Craxians. As the Craxian fleet began jumping to FTL, Chen turned to Riley. Contact the Tellarite government. Tell them we're sending medical teams and engineers to assist with repairs and casualties. The lieutenant looked up from his console, a question in his eyes. Admiral, we could have destroyed their entire fleet. Why let them escape? Chen considered the question carefully. It was one that went to the heart of what humanity had become during its exile, and what it would be now that it had returned to the galactic stage. Because we're not them, she answered simply. We remember what it meant to face extinction, to lose our homeworld, to have our achievements stolen and our history rewritten. That memory guides us toward justice, not vengeance. The victory at Tellar marked a turning point in the conflict. News of the Craxian defeat spread quickly throughout the galaxy, accelerating the collapse of Imperial control. Over the following weeks, system after system declared independence, protected by the growing Concordat fleet. 3 months later, a solemn ceremony took place on Haven. Admiral Sophia Reyes, weakened by age, but determined to witness this moment, presided over the trial of High Lord Kravex. Representatives from 26 species affected by Craxian expansion attended, each